Looks like we are live.
All right, it's shared to my timeline. So Tracy, it's shared.
There we go. I can pay attention forward.
My son will probably be walking through here to go to work here in a minute.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to thank you for taking the time to join me here. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
It's fun.
I know we've known each other for now almost, I want to say almost 20 years, since
Wow.
Since that Thousand Oaks show the rocket scientist did in 2002.
2002, yeah. So yeah, 19 years. Pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it's like,
That was like a weird to have a show in my hometown because I live real close to there. I live about maybe 10 minutes from that venue.
Yeah,
and I still live in the same place.
Hey, it's like it's amazing how some people stay put for their entire lives in their hometown, and some people like myself, where this is now my fourth city, but first city out of state. So
Yeah.
But
yeah, we moved into this place 28 years ago, and it's like like a little condo. Yeah, but we love the area, and it was kind of more space than we needed when we moved in, but 2 kids and 2 dogs later, it's just it's like the walls are closing in with just like all the stuff we've had for 30 years.
Well, we got 4 people watching, probably mine included, because I have my tablet here, so I can see if anybody types in stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, like I said, it's like my first introduction to your music was back when I got Brutal Architecture at a store in, I believe, Redondo Beach, called Round Sounds.
Oh, Ed.
And he told me, he said, he told me, here's a cool new local band. And I go, oh, okay. And I bought that CD, and ever since then, it's like each one that came out, and then I went back and got Earthbound.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I had just about everything Rocket Scientist, and then when you had your solo album that you put out, and then Eric's solo albums, which led me to Lana's solo album. So it was like a nice big rabbit hole going down. And then when you guys put out this box set,
right?
That I still have the individual CDs, especially the ones that you guys signed for me at the Thousand Oaks concert.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and then of course that has that the video, Looking Backward DVD. And I have been playing those 2007 what would you call them, remixes, or
you mean just the 2000? I think it was just the 2007 sessions is what we call it. Basically what we were trying to do is that was the time when we had, I honestly don't remember if we put the box set out, if that was like a compilation of everything we'd done at that point, or if maybe we had just put the next record out, and then it's like, oh, now we've got the next record, and then this will be our compilation with the first 3. But it was the Earthbound, the first record, was about to go out of print, and so we were pretty much sold out of it. We had a few promos or whatever left. We actually pressed cassettes of that, which is pretty funny in hindsight. But we just missed the window for when vinyl was cool back then, and we haven't gotten into vinyl yet now. But anyway, so Earthbound was going out of print, and so Eric and I were talking about, well, what if, this was when remasters were kind of all the rage and people were, remastering stuff, and they'd do expanded artwork and they'd do bonus tracks and all of that kind of stuff. We said, well, we could just make more of what we have and just have it back in stock, which is the easy thing to do. Or we could remaster it with some, maybe a bonus track or something. We didn't really know. Eric didn't remember. I found a song that like we had completed as a demo and wasn't on the record, which showed up on that box set. And so we thought maybe we could do that. But then we thought, well, we learned a lot making these records over time, and we've gotten better gear, and the first one was like, it was definitely a home production where we'd go into a real like a nice studio and record drums and that kind of thing, but then we'd come home and do all the overdubs at home on like a reel-to-reel 8-track recorder and slave up all the keyboards and a bunch of drum machine stuff electronically. And it's like, if we were to redo it now, we know how we would do that without making those kinds of compromises. And some of the songs had kind of come to life live because we'd never played live when we did the first record and that kind of thing. And so we thought, well, let's just re-record that record from the ground up, which is interesting. Like Cat Stevens did that recently with I think it was Tea for the Tillerman, or like one of his classic records. Yeah. And so we started doing it, and we were kind of doing that. I remember that, yeah, we were doing Revolution Road, and we were doing that kind of on the side. And so we got about halfway through it, and we were like, let's not do that. So instead, we ended up doing a box set where we, gave the remaster treatment to the first 3 albums as they were. And then we took all of the stuff that we had done so far, which was probably 5 or 6 tracks, and we did Picture Show and God, I can't even remember which songs they are now, but we did a bunch of we had gotten through a lot of the songs, and Earthbound and some of that other stuff, and Minstrel Savior we redid. I don't remember if we released Killing Joke. I know we started working on it.
I don't think I see it there.
Yeah, so we collected together all of that stuff, and then there was like, Eric had been working with Kelly Keeling, and he had always wanted to hear him singing Mariner, who kind of defines that song now from touring with Eric, and he's just got, that guy's an amazing singer.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we took the Brutal Architecture version and threw Kelly's vocals on there, and we had recorded like a little prologue kind of thing with Nick DiVirgilio when he played with us one time, and we went into the studio, recorded a track with him, and we just had a bunch of odds and ends, and so that's what the 2007 sessions is. And then while we were there, we had our friend Eric Nielsen come. Oh, actually, I don't think it was Eric. That was before Eric, but we had someone come out and shoot video of us playing. So like what you see there is like there are some overdubs and there are some things that were replaced, but that's like the live drums and bass track and that kind of stuff.
For anybody that wants to know, are there any more of these out there, or is it?
No, I mean, we don't have any more. That's before we went on air, I was telling you that I had stuff and I gave things to my family and that kind of thing, but then we didn't have any more copies of that. And as I started kind of organizing my collection, because I have a massive CD collection and that kind of thing, and I realized I really wanted for my kids to have a copy of all my Rocket Scientist stuff and my solo record and stuff like that, just so that they each had like a collection. And so I ended up ordering used copies off of like, I don't remember if it was Amazon Marketplace or eBay or something, but I found a couple of copies, and so I've got those, and I have one for myself, and I actually have notes that if I find any in the future, I'll probably snap them up just to like have, because it's not like we're going to repress that.
Right. That's for independent bands to do that size of a box set. That's a big undertaking.
It's interesting. I saw an interview once with Danny DeVito, and I kind of think of it like that, where he was talking about how one of the most important things, at least at the time, that he had done was he his pet project was The War of the Roses, which is a movie with I think it's Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, and he's
Yes.
in it. And Danny, I don't know if he wrote it, but he definitely directed it, and it's like kind of his baby and his project. So I know you're into video and everything, and so he was really into the Criterion Collection Laserdisc of The War of the Roses, and like the way that they pulled everything together and the care with which they, basically as an archivist pulled all of that stuff together and made it into a presentable package that kind of represents everything about making it and the alternate stuff and commentary and all of those things. And he said that was just like kind of a dream. So now he has this one box that like represents everything. And that was kind of the ethic that we had with Looking Backward. I mean, of course, we wanted to be able to share that with fans and with people who appreciate the music, so that they could get a little, get more than the experience that they'd had from having the initial stuff. And of course, it was a great intro to the band for other people. But also, it's just a really cool thing for us to have, just as an archive and a collecting place for all of that stuff.
Oh yeah, it's like it sits right up on my my shelf with all the box sets that I have, and
Oh, cool.
it's because it's really interesting how it's done in a, what do they used to call it, the almost a DVD style box.
Yeah, it's like a DVD box, but large, fatter. So and it has like these pages, so that there's like it's like a plastic booklet, and on each page there's a DVD. And it's interesting to see how those things have evolved over the years. Those were a real pain in the butt, because those things would break. But I really love the package. I think it came together nicely, and the booklet's just great.
Oh yeah, I keep on revisiting that too. Yeah, I
Yep.
got a bunch of people saying hello in the room.
Oh, I'm looking at, I guess I'm looking at my own page. Let's see who oh, there we go.
Hans, Emily, Don, Robert, Al.
So it's just a really cool thing for us to have, just as an archive. I'm in an alternate reality here. Hold on. I gotta okay. In order to get it to where I see all of the comments, I had to like kind of start the show. And so now, so I had the audio going from both places. Anyway, I see my daughter there. Hi, Emily. She just moved. She was living here at the house for a long time, and she just moved to Sacramento.
Oh wow, up north. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was your only solo album.
Yes.
Damn
this writer's block.
No.
No, I'm serious. I'd love to do another one.
I know it's, to me, every time I listen to it, whether it's on my headphones or in my car, because I put a bunch of music on my USB drives, so I can, just easier than taking a whole bunch of CDs into the car. And I've been listening to that, and especially, in preparation for this, and it's like it's just amazing. I did review this years ago when you first sent it to me.
21 years ago.
Yeah. And I'm going to, eventually I was thinking of revisiting a lot of, especially, Rocket Scientist albums and your solo stuff, of doing of a kind of like a retrospective, so people that may not know about you guys, that I really think should know, because whenever I hear people talk about different Southern California prog bands, and sometimes when I mention you guys, they go, well, who are they? And it's like, that's something, they should know, because, you were around for
It's interesting
But
though. I mean, we didn't play shows out around this area. So, you know, and I think that's how you get a lot of recognition and fan base and all of that kind of thing. I mean, you know, it just, there wasn't, when we started, we kind of started doing that kind of before Prague, the underground Prague scene with, like, you know, Spock's Beard, Porcupine Tree, and some of the bigger bands and what have you. We were doing it, we just missed that. And so, you know, we ended up, especially when Lana got her Japanese deal and started having some success over there. You know, we would release the records in Japan, we would release things in Europe, we did some festivals over there. We ended up just like kind of playing internationally more than we did locally. And with the exception of festivals, you know, we would do, we did Prague West, and we did Bay Area Rock Fest, and we did several like things like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I do think that's a part of it. I guess I kind of lost my train of thought there.
right, yeah. Well, you know, I going back to that, it's like sometimes it's so weird where a band will be more noticed everywhere except their own country or their own, you know, region. And
I think another
because
part of it though is our particular influences and the style of music that we make was, I think people were more receptive in other countries than they were over here, because the kinds of bands that got big over here were either Spock's Beard, where it's like they really wear the like the Gentle Giant and Yes influences on the sleeve, where
right,
it's, and I don't say that as a slam at all. I love that stuff. But, like, you know, really hardcore prog. And I think that the guys who are into that kind of stuff felt like we were a little too pop for them, because
right,
Eric and I initially with Rocket Scientist, you know, we bonded over um we bonded over ELO, like the first few records. We bonded over Blue Oyster Cult, like sort of the more prog with a little bit of, you know, heavier stuff going on. And we bonded over Alan Parsons Project and Pink Floyd and that kind of stuff, and not so much over the like really hardcore prog. We both had a healthy appreciation for Yes, but at the time that we were kind of trying to make our first records and what have you, it was more about, you know, the 90125, like the current stuff. And we both
right.
really loved Asia. Of course, Eric ended up working with them. And you know, so that I don't think that was as much in vogue over here, especially then. Um, I remember someone compared one of our songs to Journey when the first record came out in a prog magazine, which means that's an insult, you know?
Right, right,
And it's like, and I don't hear it. Well, I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's like they're not one of my influences.
right. Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is I noticed even
Oh, Moody
two.
Blues. That's like the big thing for me.
Right. I've noticed really in all the years of reading the, you know, either prog magazines or prog websites, that you got two camps. You got those hardcores, or you got the ones that can actually do I want to say a healthy balance of both. You
Yeah,
know,
and I realized my thought was incomplete, because there's either the hardcore prog guys or there's the prog metal guys, the guys that are into Dream Theater, and we
right.
don't fit in either of those camps.
I think you well, like I said, it's like you got a healthy, you have the prog influences there and you have the pop influences there. And the way you just put them both together, it's like I think people that are those what they call the snobs, they they don't they don't want to appreciate what bands can do if they add the pop element into it. They think that, oh, if they're using pop, they're not, they want to sell out and everything. And
Right, and
I don't think that's the case.
no, no, definitely not. I mean, the thing is, it's like I my lens of prog is that it's really more about the arrangement than the writing, and so I really focus on songs and what have you. Now, I mean, the thing that I think does set us apart from some like the Alan Parsons Project and some of those kinds of things is obviously Eric. I mean, you know, he's extremely stylized, and he's, you know, very much in the Keith Emerson, Rick Wakeman kind of vein, and so he's going to pull some of those people along. But I definitely know of people who love what it is that he does and don't like what I do in the band. But then, you know, it's different strokes for different folks. I mean,
Right.
Eric and I are totally on the same page as far as what we've tried to do with the band, and it's like every time we talk about it, it's like it just kind of reinforces how aligned we are.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and of course, and I mean, I see Don's here. It's like I don't mean to minimize Don at all. Now the band
oh,
started out with just Eric and I, but you know, adding Don really like took it to another place as well. You know, because you've got, you know, the sort of moody pop singer songwriter me with the like keyboard hero Eric, and then Don just has this organic kind of uh, it's an organic element in that, like, the way that he feels groove and the way that he approaches music is very earthy, but at the same time, you know, the stick and the different instruments, that eventually the NS stick and the different kinds of things that he's done, and then even on the later stuff, Don got into doing strings, cellos, and that kind of thing on the records, and it just that really takes it to a different place. And Don doesn't come off like, oh, it's someone trying to be Tony Levin. Don is totally his own thing.
oh yeah.
You know.
Well, that's what I noticed. It's like, you know, each of you three have your personalities per se, that
Mm-hmm.
that's what combined together creates rocket scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And because when you hear, it's like when you hear Don play, it's like you were saying, it's like you I have seen where people are trying to compare him to Tony, and it's like, no, it's like in two different camps. And I don't, it's like if someone, let's say Eric, you know, he plays keyboards, so automatically they think that he's gonna, if he doesn't do on every single note a Keith Emerson or Rick Wakeman thing, that, you know, it's not the same. And it's like, he does what he does. I mean,
Well, and the other thing about Eric, though, is that Eric is the sound of the band. He's the producer, and that's as big for me as the keyboard element. You know, it's like the keyboard thing is obvious; it's right there in your face. But you know, it's like I like I love what it is that I do in my creative process, but you know, it's like you should hear my demos. At some point, I just stopped trying very hard because it was like, okay, I've captured this idea, I'm playing it, it sounds fine. Eric will make this sound world class, you know.
oh yeah, he, you know, that's why it's like I really wished I was in a good place to have seen you guys, your last show that you did a few years back.
Mm-hmm. Wait,
Uh,
you mean the
Rocket Scientist?
no, but you mean the one that we did in New Jersey?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have gone there and
Podcast.
um, did you guys record it?
We did. Not real sure what or when is going to happen with that, but that's something we're interested in. It's been crazy. I mean, obviously, you know, 2020 happened,
Exactly.
so you know, we had some time to look at it and what have you, but nothing on the immediate horizon for doing anything with it. But I think it'll see the light of day at some point.
I hope so, because you know, that combined with your box set would be like an ultimate collection right there.
Well, and there again, it's like we have some options for what we could do with that as well. Because like I said, there's footage from that show that we did with Sean Guerin. There's footage from Three Rivers Prague. There's a bunch of different bits and pieces that we have. So, maybe we'll revisit some of that, or maybe it'll just be like the ultimate great version of that one show. Either one of them would be pretty great for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was a cool show. It was kind of like, we were approaching it as our last show and knew that was what it was going to be as we were doing it. And so we were able to make it that kind of survey of the music. We wanted to really evenly represent the different albums, represent kind of part of what Eric has done in his solo material, and feature some of the things that we had not played live yet. And we really enjoyed choosing some of the lesser known or lesser performed songs. One of my favorite ones that we did was Downtrodden. That came out really nice, and revisiting Fall of Icarus was really a fun thing too. And then some of the more like the Traveler on the Supernatural Highways, like bits and pieces of that, where Eric really gets to stretch out. And we also it was fun to leverage Greg Ellis, the drummer that was playing with us at that show, because we've thought of him as our drummer for a long time. He played in the studio from like even back on Revolution Road, and we've known him. Don actually played with him in other projects from before then. And it was kind of like, but it was actually the first time he had played live with us in public. And so it was weird that it was like the first time that our drummer played with us is at our last show.
Right.
But that was cool because he really added a different element with some of the percussive type stuff that he does, and so that was cool too.
Yeah. Going back to that Thousand Oaks show, I think that was one of my favorite shows of the whole, while I was in Los Angeles. And
oh, thanks.
I was really honestly surprised that I actually made it out there, because I had never been to Thousand Oaks. I wasn't sure how I was going to find it, so I was like going, okay, it's like, don't get lost, because I really want to see these guys. It was really nice. I think I do remember I spoke with you briefly afterwards, but mostly I was talking with Eric and Lana for a while, because out around that time I was doing a lot of Lana's CDs, the reviews of them, and then I remember doing an interview with both of them at a Denny's down in Santa Monica. I was just like a few blocks away, and they were coming in from the valley. So it was just one of those cool moments, about around that time, 2001, 2002, and then, with the one thing that I don't have, and I'm going to look them up, is Don's stuff. I think I did review one of his, and
Hearing Over Clouds.
I believe that's one of them. I think I did. But then when I moved from California up here to Maine, a lot of the things were lost. So it's like, I got to go through and see, to fill in the gap, so to speak. I had to do that with some of Eric's, and I was really glad that I didn't lose yours, because, it wasn't that, it been out of print for quite a while, I think.
Well, like I say, I've got plenty of them, so that one will probably be around for a while. We'll be able to. I should try and find another way to make that obvious. Maybe if I can put a basket on my website or something like that. But yeah, I hope people don't think, oh wow, it's out of print, I can't get it anymore.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's good. At least, because it's a really good CD. I mean, obviously that's
another one. I really need to do another one. It's sad that that's like I mean, the whole reason I did that was, you know, kind of everything. I have a lot of different influences, and so I kind of wanted to make that statement of the kinds of things that I was into at the time, and some of my favorite stuff. I mean, really, honestly, more Beatley kind of stuff, and so bands like Crowded House or the Moody Blues and the lesser progressive parts of the Moody Blues and that kind of thing. Because I was really into power pop at the time. I had been friends with a band that was kind of like Jellyfish, and actually talked about joining that band for a while, but I ended up getting together and jamming with them, and it just, chemistry wasn't quite right. But anyway, it's like I was trying to do those kinds of things, and honestly, it's like I wanted to do something that had my own signature on it, and something that didn't kind of go through Eric's filter so much. He ended up helping, and he mastered the record and that kind of thing, but I was trying to just kind of not have it be just like another part of the think tank collective. I wanted to kind of say, here's what it is that I do and what I bring to the table. And I don't know what a next solo record would be. I have a few things that I've been working on, and I don't know, you know, maybe they'll, I ended up collaborating with someone else on a song last year. No, I think it might've been in 2019. Geez. But anyway, I haven't, I feel like, I don't know if it's where I am in my life right now, or whether it's the fact that my studio turned into the kids' bedrooms and now I don't have a place that fosters that kind of creativity, or if I don't have a long commute to work where my brain just like works on that kind of stuff. But for, you know, one reason or another, I just don't write the way that I used to. And there have been some things I've been actually working on lately. I was talking with Eric and Lana about this over the holidays, and I started looking on my phone and playing little bits and pieces of things. It's like, you know, there's a few ideas here that I could probably work up into something. So maybe this year, we'll see.
Hey, you know, it's good that if you can do something, but at the same time, I think just like in other aspects in life, if you push it, it may not come
Yeah. Well,
out the
definitely.
right way, and then
And
um,
there are some other people I'm really anxious to work with as well. I've made a lot of friends over the last few years. I think we talked offline. There's this group on Facebook called Theme Music, and it's a collective of musicians that it's a private group, and every 2 weeks they put out a new theme. So, you know, one theme will be one of the last themes that they had was Piss Off, and it was the last theme for 2020, and it was like giving the finger to 2020 basically. And so you know, it's, you know, post any just like vitriolic, you know, song that really like Death on Two Legs by Queen would be a really great one,
oh
or
yeah,
Big Shot by Billy Joel, and that kind of thing. So I ended up doing Leaving This Broadway, which is Kevin Gilbert's song about Sheryl Crow. And but anyway, it's like you know, we collaborate on stuff, and I joined that group because there were some specific musicians that I had always wanted to work with that were doing it. One of probably the main one was Christian Nesmith. His dad was in the Monkees, but that's like kind of not the headline with him. He's an amazing musician. He's really into all things. I think one of his favorites is King's X, but he's into all things prog and that kind of thing. And so we actually have collaborated on a few things, and his wife Cersei Link as well. Robbie Rist is part of that group, which is interesting. He's cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch.
right.
And he's very musical, has been in lots of projects. In fact, one of the main projects he was in the 90s was called The Andersons, and it was like kind of tongue-in-cheek, like the Ramones, where all the guys in the band changed their last name to Anderson for the purpose of the credits. But there was one guy, Derek Anderson, who it was his band, and that's really his name. And Derek is the guy who played bass on my solo record. And
Oh.
he went on to play in the Bangles and the Smithereens and with Dave Davies from the Kinks, and just he all sorts of stuff. He's had quite a bit of success lately, and I had him play again recently. When through connections with that group, there was a pretty, actually a really cool tribute record to XTC called The Garden of Earthly Delights. And I did the song Your Dictionary, and I had Derek play bass on that. And he just really brought it to life. It was great. I got the drummer from my Pink Floyd tribute band to play on it. And I had played placeholder bass, and I was like, this is great. It's going to sound really good. Then I had Derek over, and it was like, okay, I don't play bass. I get it.
Yeah. Speaking of, projects, I remember maybe a few years back, you sent me a link for the Secret Martyrs Club. I think I got that right.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I was at the NAMM show, and I worked at Line 6 for 15 years, and the founder, one of the co-founders of Line 6, Marcus Ryle, is a really amazing keyboard player, and he's really into prog stuff. In fact, when I heard that he was excited when I joined the company because he heard a rumor that I could sing a Greg Lake stuff, and so at the company parties we'd be able to do ELP songs. And so sure enough, at our first party, it was me, him on keyboards, Sean Guerin on drums, and John Brinkman on bass, who's the bass player in my Pink Floyd tribute project. And we did Carnival 9, First Impression Part 2, the single, and I Am the Walrus. And it was like that kind of summed up that whole thing really well. And we would go on to do like similarly ambitious things. Like at one party, actually with Sean as well, we did Frankenstein, and we had like a horn section because there were guys in the company that played horns. We did Penny Lane at that show, and Sean sang Shock the Monkey.
Yeah, because
and I'm sorry, I totally derailed. So
that's bring
it back home. I was at the NAMM show talking with Marcus a couple of years ago, and he said, "Hey, someone was asking me if there was a singer that could sing on a prog song, and it's these two brothers, and one's a keyboard player, there's a Chapman stick player, and they're interested in talking to you. Would you want to meet them?" And so I said, "Yeah, sure." And so it was a guy, and he's making really politically charged prog rock. And I said, well, great, sounds right up my alley. And so we did a few songs he was working on, and the project is called the Secret Martyrs Club. This is Dan Kubert's project, and his brother Jeremy also plays in the project. And so he had written this song called Everything Will Be Fine. And you can imagine like kind of the tone of that. And then we had another one called Black Flower. And so I sang on both of those songs, and I don't think I played anything on those, but I've since done some covers with Jeremy as well. One of my favorite cover projects that I did, because in my writer's block era here, I decided that I would try and just kind of hone the craft of recording and doing my own thing. One of my favorite things to do is to do songs that are like, either very keyboard centric or very arrangement centric, and then do a stripped down acoustic guitar version. Like I did Peter Gabriel's Family Snapshot and a few other songs like that, where it's just me and a single instrument. And so anyway, with Jeremy, one of the last things that we did was Through the Airwaves by Thomas Dolby, which is a really great, really underrated song. I had totally forgotten that song existed, and he sent it to me. Did a really good, really nice arrangement, lots of great keyboards and all that kind of stuff. And so I said, you have to have like a big strumming 12 string on this. It just really needs it. So I played 12 string and put the whole thing together, and it's up on YouTube, and I'm really proud of that. But then what I also did is, for theme music, the theme that week happened to be songs from the first half of the 80s. And it fit the theme. So I thought, well, I'm not going to take you know, his work and put it up there, and like, you know, because that would be like outside the group and that kind of thing. But I took just my 12-string guitar and vocal and did a solo mix, and it came out really nice. It like that's completely resets your expectations for that song. And yeah, that's a really good one.
It's
I'll have to
nice.
share that with you, because I think I shared the
Yeah.
full band version, but not the acoustic one. And most of the stuff that I put on theme music is kind of, I do it for fun. So I usually don't share it up unless it kind of fits with kind of the overall statement I'm trying to make just as an artist or what have you. I remember the thing I got the most views on was I did a solo acoustic guitar version of When Time Stood Still, which is an obscure ELO song that Lana Lane covered.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, you know, like with music, it's amazing. It's like, you know, you can have a song that has so many different instruments and everything, and then a completely stripped down version of it, and it's like they're uh both equally as good. But sometimes I think sometimes when it's just the singer and one instrument, whether he plays it or he has an accompany, uh that you feel a little more into it, then you get to actually hear what the words,
Yeah, exactly. You hear the song. It's like they're talking to you rather than they're kind of buried uh, in a bigger experience. And I mean, there's merit to both. Obviously, I love creating an atmosphere, and you know, that's Eric's thing as a producer, is being able to take the listener away into another world and just really kind of envelop them in the experience. But there's something really different about that, just like very direct, you know, performance.
oh yeah,
Especially when it's the person who wrote the song. I really like hearing that.
oh yeah, yeah. It's like I've seen here. I mean, I can't name them, but I've heard so many different things where the artist will either add more or subtract it.
Hmm.
And again, like we were saying, it's like to actually to you know to hear the lyrics, you know, to hear what the you know the songwriter you know was trying to convey, you know, with its lyrics, his or her lyrics, you know, sometimes gets buried in the mix, and
Hmm.
then you have to go to some website, and while you're listening to your music on the headset, you got to go look at the lyrics at a lyric sheet. Whereas if it's stripped down, you don't necessarily need that lyric sheet because you can actually hear it.
Yeah.
And sometimes sometimes
MTV
I
Unplugged was so great with that. I mean, that was kind of the appeal of that show.
yeah, you know, I really like um, you know, both ways of how artists do things, you know, whether you know, especially when they do, you know, the big thing back in the 90s with on MTV, the unplugged thing, where
Hmm.
you get to, you know, again, you get to hear the song as the writer intended it, but then, you know, adding, you know, to make it rock or prog or metal, whatever the genre, um, when you add too much into it, it's like sometimes you can't really hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I guess I kind of have an equal appreciation, but it's always refreshing when you get to hear the stripped down version, um, you know, for the first time, especially if you've been introduced to it through the fully orchestrated. I don't know if you heard, but one of the things Eric and I both really enjoyed lately, did you ever see the recent, like maybe 5 years, um, ELO thing with Jeff? It's just Jeff Lynne and Richard Tandy on acoustic piano, and they're
No, I
just
didn't see
playing
that.
all the, oh, it's freaking amazing. It's so good. And I mean, you see them, and like Richard's picking up all of the little arrangement bits and what have you in his piano playing, and Jeff is strumming the guitar and singing, and it's just perfect. I mean, that's the thing with Jeff Lynne production, of course, is, you know, it's going to be perfect. But yeah, Telephone Line and Showdown and all those songs like work so well like that.
Oh yeah,
Can't
like you
get
said.
it out of my head.
Yeah, the first couple well with the ELO, I think they had like almost like different um periods of their, the first album I think was something completely different than anything they did after. And then
Yeah,
there
well,
was a
that was when Roy Wood was with the band, and it was kind of an outgrowth of the band Wizard. Or I'm sorry, no, Roy Wood went on to be Wizard. That was an outgrowth of the Move.
and and it was just amazing how it's like from that point, and then if anything, that would be their most progressive, or you can call it their prog period. And then each album after that was leaning more and more to the pop side. And
Yeah, the first three ELO albums were all pretty darn prog. The one of the ones that Eric covered on Hommage Symphonique was, gosh, was it? Oh shit! Now I'm not gonna remember the name of the song. King of the Universe.
yes,
Yeah. Wow, what a amazing that is like one of the most amazing prog songs, and it's ELO, but it's from before all the big radio hits.
right, yeah. And there was one of their songs. It was an instrumental song that when I was living in LA, um, always heard it on KLOS. I later found out it was Fire on High, but for
Yeah.
a good 3 or 4 years, I would either miss the intro from the DJ or miss later on the DJ saying who it is. So I couldn't figure out who is this band. This is amazing. And
Yeah, they used it for ABC's Wild World of Sports, I think, didn't they?
I
Wasn't it
think
the theme
so.
song?
I
Yeah,
think
there's
that
another song like that I would hear and didn't know who it was, and you would never guess, but it's the Eagles' Journey to the Sorcerer. Do you know that song?
no, I don't.
It's an acoustic track, or I mean, it's a an instrumental track, and it's awesome. It actually has banjo, but it's like really they used it as the theme to the British TV show, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, you should look that one up.
I think I got the Hitchhikers the TV series they did.
Yeah, it's the theme. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
Eagle.
Then it's probably then I've probably heard it quite a few different times and not know who they were.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's like a big like string thing goes da 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 da. It's you'll
Okay, yeah.
hear it.
Yeah, now I can hear it and visualize that. But it's just amazing how bands have those songs that it's like, where people don't know who they are because for the longest time when I was trying to explain what the song was, they were going, someone went as far as saying Kansas, and I'm going, no,
Yeah,
didn't
sounds
it
kind of like
wasn't it did, but it didn't. I think it maybe the violin parts
right. Yeah,
probably had that feel, and even going further back, it's like band Boston with that
foreplay.
huge foreplay, and
Yeah.
it's like a friend of mine was like going when I listened to it, he was like going, "That's that's a cool hard rocking ELP song." I said, "That's not them."
No.
I said, "That's not them." And he goes, he was arguing with me. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then I said, "Look, I got the cassette. Here's the cassette. Put it in and listen to it." And he goes, "Oh
Yeah,
my
the
God."
chord changes aren't like jazz or classical enough to be.
So it's like, it's amazing, the how the 70s and 80s they had some kind of blurred lines, but not really that much, but because of how
Yeah, I've really thought that in the 70s, Prague, at least as an influence, was just everywhere. Those early Lana and I really bond over the heart stuff that's really proggy, like the Soul of the Sea from Dreamboat Annie and Mr. Wind from Dog and Butterfly, and actually the whole second side of Dog and Butterfly. Um, and Love Alive is another really amazing one. And that stuff, I mean, Hart really kind of wanted to be Led Zeppelin, and that's kind of them trying to pick up some of the like physical graffiti, like 10 Years Gone and those kinds of things. But it's also just kind of, I mean, even all the Mini Moog stuff in Magic Man, you know, is really cool. And I mean, that was a yeah, part of that is that Styx and Kansas and that kind of thing on the radio were very proggy. Even like Foreigner, you know, it's like, yeah, now you think of them as like Hot Blooded and that kind of thing, and those were the hits. But that first record had Star Rider on it, and you know, the keyboard player was Ian McDonald from King Crimson. So, you know,
Yeah, I know. That was another song that when I heard that, I didn't know who they were.
mhm.
And then when I found out that they were Foreigner, I was like going, well, wait a second. You know, like you're saying, you know, Hot Blooded, and then here's Starlight. You know, it's like it was just two different, almost like two different bands in a way. You
Yeah,
know.
and it's some of their hits, even you can hear it. Like a Long, Long Way from Home is another one that's like really that's got some proggy bits. I mean, it's certainly more pop, but has some great stuff in it.
And I know you've been doing a lot of, well, I don't know, it's been a while since I've seen you up on Facebook Live doing your
Yeah, I did that
acoustic
at the
show.
beginning of quarantine, and it was a lot of work to get those things ready. I mean, you know, you know from you know, I mean, we've got a Zoom meeting going, and then you're feeding it into Facebook Live, and it's like there's a lot of things that people take for granted about that kind of thing. And you know, I'd seen people that just like, you know, share stuff on their phone and stuff, and it actually sounds pretty good. But what I've also seen things that just sound terrible because of how Facebook kind of they have like a noise reduction and compression algorithm that just destroys sound. Um,
Right.
and so I really wanted to do something different. And I found an app that allows you to set up a multi-camera shoot with multiple audio sources and feed it into Facebook. And it's really great. It's called OBS, Open Broadcasting, I think, software. And anyway, got all that stuff together and did a bunch of songs. I've had this issue with my hands where I just can't play guitar that much anymore. Um, I can do stuff that's easy. I can kind of work around it for the most part. You know, we were able to construct the set list in a way and use a certain guitar and what have you in a way that I was able to make it through the set for the last Rocket Scientist show. But like playing like full chords and bar chords and stuff on an acoustic guitar for 30 minutes will wreck me. And so um, there were a couple of times where I just wasn't sure if I could do it. And it gets better and it gets worse. But it's frustrating. And so I haven't done it lately, partially because of that, partially just because I've been busy with other stuff. And I haven't really been as inspired. I kind of had this huge catalog of stuff that I'd always wanted to play, a lot of the covers that I did for theme music. Um, and some of them were like really, they're like hard to play. They're complex and you know, when I record them for theme music, I'd just like, you know, play and then I'd sing and then I'd put it together, and like actually performing them live in real time is a whole different thing. And so I just haven't done it in a while, but I have missed it and I've wanted to do it. You know, this thing, our chat right now is kind of getting me inspired to do that kind of thing again. And I did another one that was kind of similar with the Kevin Gilbert estate, where they've got a podcast where they're talking to people, and I did an episode with them as well, kind of talking from the recording and just kind of my part in his whole world.
Right.
He
Yeah,
was
that's a good episode. People haven't already seen it. You know, it's kind of it's nice when a lot of the artists now, since we have, you know, the COVID, that are going back and revisiting their, you know, whether it's musically or just talking about, you know, the different stories of what they've done. I mean, a lot of musicians are doing these podcasts. And, um, for a while back, I think early last year, I was watching the ones with Robert Plant, where he was revisiting not only his Zeppelin stuff, but his solo songs. Each episode, he would talk about what happened for this, a particular song. And it's just kind of, you know, while COVID took away something, I think it also gave us something where this new, the media, Zoom and other similar apps where people can, like with Zoom, you can add up to I think it's 100 people on this thing, but that'd be crazy just to have 100 little with everybody talking at the same time, and you wouldn't get anything done. But at least it gives that the access to do things like that. And so
yeah, there were some bands really did remarkable things. I would love to get a little bit more into it. Sal just mentioned that Don and I did something where we redid a version of Avalon, and Don did like a really amazing job with putting strings to it, and
that was a good one.
And I had my daughter sing backup vocals, and we really it's just like a different, fresh take on the song. And I kind of had visions of doing more of that stuff, and I'm sure we will do more stuff in the future, but unfortunately Don lost his home in a fire.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and so my my grand idea of the strings and making a big deal out of that, he doesn't have the strings anymore, so that's a little bit on hold. But I think we can reinvent that. I certainly would love to do some other songs. I'm really trying to write more stuff. I actually do have another song with Don and with Robert Schindler. I don't know if he's watching. I saw him give a thumbs up.
He was.
And the three of us did a song that I'd like to make part of that project. It's called Love Song by Elton John from Tumbleweed Connection. And we did a really, I think a really, really cool version of that song.
Yeah. One of the Facebook Live shows you did, you had your daughter and I believe it was your son.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of cool. It's like, to have like a little, a family band. So,
Yeah, it's fun because like Alex is, he hasn't pursued music professionally, or well, obviously he's 18, so not professionally, but he hasn't really tried to make that a big thing that he's doing. But he just, I sat down and was playing guitar with him last night, or no, not last night, it was 2 nights ago. And he said, you want to get out the guitars? And I don't know that we have done that in 6 months. And he was telling me he was trying to figure out a day in the life. And so we were playing through it together, and I couldn't quite, like, it's like we would start and stop and get chords, and then I would get lost where I was in the song. So we eventually like put the thing on, and I'm teaching him stuff that's, the Beatles stuff is one of the, often is the kind of thing that sounds really easy. And then you actually try to do it in the moment, and you realize that like, oh, I see, every section is almost the same, but not quite, and things like that. And I would throw things at him, and he would remember it better than I would. He just like has those instincts. So so it's been fun playing with him. And then of course Emily has her own thing. She's put out a couple of EPs. She was playing in bands when she was really young, like when there's videos of 10 and 11-year-old Emily rocking out, playing bass and singing lead and stuff like that. So she does it more than I do at this point.
Well, I also noticed on some of those simple songs, when you really start really paying attention, there's a lot of complex things going on.
Yeah, like one of my favorite stories with that is at one of the Line 6 parties, we decided we were going to do Here Comes the Sun, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, everyone knows Here Comes the Sun. Well, there was a guy who's a brilliant musician at Line 6, but he grew up like in a very religious household, and so the Beatles weren't like he wasn't familiar with all of their stuff, and played in church and this kind of thing, and so he was going to play drums, and try listening to Here Comes the Sun with fresh ears and following the meter and counting the song out. It's like there are all these parts that are just like, odd time signatures here and there, and just he was totally lost.
Right.
So he just kind of had to just lay down a groove, and we all followed along. But
Yeah, because I noticed, with a lot of the Beatles stuff, and then the Beach Boys, it's like, especially Pet Sounds right there. It's like when you really, sometimes when I'm listening to music, and if I really want to hear it closer, with the headphones, I press
mhm.
it down a little bit so to block any of the outside interference, and then especially now with these, we were talking about the 5.1s, mix, you get to hear things that were so buried in the mix originally, and then now you're hearing new sounds, and especially when they do that, obviously I think some of them have to remaster them,
Yeah.
so and then you hear all these different sounds of that, like, wait a second, and then I remember reading somewhere someone was like going, well, it's almost like they're making a completely different song, I said, I'm not a musician. I don't know any of the behind the scenes stuff, but I do know there's a lot of songs out there that there are things buried in the mix because at that time that it was recorded, they couldn't bring it out for whatever reason.
Yeah,
You know?
well, Pet Sounds is a particular example of that, because Brian Wilson is deaf in one ear, so all of the old Beach Boys stuff is all mixed in mono, and he really preferred that. I mean, the Beatles even thought of the mono mixes of their early stuff up through like the White Album as the mono is the real mix, and then the stereo is like this gimmicky thing that they just kind of threw together. And with Pet Sounds, they when they ended up like kind of revisiting that and remastering and re-releasing it in, I think it was like the 2005 or something like that, or sometime in the early 2000s. They um they they actually got out like all of the tapes and found like the comp reels, because they would record that on 4 track, and then they bounce it all down to mono, and then layer a bunch of other stuff and place all of that kind of thing. And so they actually got out all of those individual elements and transferred them all individually, synced it back up so that they had like a full multi-track where they could do like a proper 5.1 mix. And I think they had to do some of that stuff for Sergeant Pepper as well, because that was recorded on 4 track machines. And so it was a real revelation, first of all, just to hear a stereo mix at all. But then, the 5.1 is just unbelievable. That's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, that just about anything that I so far have heard on 5.1 is like takes like a something great and makes it even greater,
There
and
are good ones and bad ones. Like I have some, I think I have Moving Pictures by Rush, and I didn't really think it was that great. And there were a few other ones that I thought were just like, it's kind of some of the old Genesis in surround I didn't really like. Some of it was mastering where I just think there's a little too much high end or that kind of thing. But Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree is definitely kind of the master of that these days. He's done quite a bit of Yes. He did all of King Crimson with the exception of their last album, Thrack. And he did some ELP. I know that he did. I think he did Tarkus, and I know that he did a version of Brain Salad Surgery, although there was an earlier surround version of Brain Salad Surgery. But the Yes, like the one that really got to me was Relayer. I had always thought that was a pretty cool album, but it completely just blew my mind when I heard the 5.1 of that record. And then Tales from Topographic Oceans was really good, and all of the like Wetton era King Crimson is amazing as well.
Yeah, and I think he also did some Gentle Giant.
Yep, he did Gentle Giant. He did Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair, and Sowing the Seeds of Love. Sowing the Seeds of Love is still on my want list. And
Yeah.
God, he did Graceland for Paul Simon. He did some of the really, really good stuff that he did was XTC. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah, he did that.
Caravan, all sorts of stuff he's done.
Yeah, it would
Not
be kind of
his own stuff, which is really good too.
Oh yeah, he. I just saw that he did some unboxing of his earlier thing. It's like he's a really busy guy.
Yeah, he went back through and did all of the Porcupine Tree stuff. In fact, that was kind of the idea behind what we were doing with Earthbound, where, you know, he took Sky Move Sideways and Up the Down Stair and went back. He didn't re-record them from the ground up, but he replaced all of the drum machine with real drums from Gavin Harrison, and then did proper mixes and that kind of stuff. And I don't know if he re-sang any backup vocals, but that stuff really came alive when he redid that. Oh, Jethro Tull, yeah, that was another one Robert just mentioned.
Yeah.
God, that's a lot of material.
And I noticed of a lot of his remasters, they're going out of print really quick.
Yeah, I know. I fear for the ELP stuff I've been wanting to get. I ordered. The thing I hate is when I'm ordering used stuff that's out of print. I ordered Steven Wilson did a mix of Trilogy by ELP, and so I ordered one of the bonus deluxe box version kind of things, and it was listed as the one with the surround mix, and I got it, and it wasn't. It was it has a bonus CD with alternate mixes and stuff, but no surround. So it's well, shit. Guess right. I missed that one because it's going for hundreds of dollars now, and I
know
I haven't missed. I hope I haven't missed Sowing the Seeds of Love. That has been out for less than a year, but I think it's already hard to find.
Yeah, I have it on my list, and I think last time I saw it, it was. I think it was when it came out. It was under 100 or something like that, and I think it's over. I don't remember the exact, but it's I haven't seen some of his stuff all of a sudden on. I forget which was his album or one of the ones that he remastered. $902 and is trying to sell these things. And I'm going, I hope you're giving some of that back to the original artist, because that is ridiculous when they get an old term that my dad used to use for people that were like that, piggy. That is a very piggy thing. It's hey, I sold one thing off of eBay years ago. I started off at 99 cents, and that thing, by the time it was done, was over $80. And I'm going, wow. I had to message the guy that wanted it for $80. I said, are you sure you want this? And he goes, yeah, I've been looking for it. Blah, blah. I said, okay, but I started at 99 cents and it skyrocketed up. I was watching this thing climb and climb, and I go, okay, that's not piggy. That's true fanatics out there that wanted this CD. And right. That's a different story, but it's allow that to happen. Don't automatically price something so crazy that
yeah, and then and a lot of times you'll see people that just price something completely insane if there's only one or two copies out there. I was looking for I'm a fan of this guy Gregory Darling, who was in a band called Darling Cruel. We covered the song his song Colored Life with Lana Lane, and the other day I was he's been releasing albums, and there were a couple of albums where I heard him on Spotify, and it was I don't know how great this is. I don't know. But it's I want to support him, and I wanted to buy his stuff. So I bought all of his stuff, but I somehow missed one, and I went to look for it. and this just came out like a couple of years ago, maybe. And I found one copy and it was like $900. You know,
Yeah.
no one's going to buy that. And that's, you know, I'm sure that there's some kind of anomaly there, but just like crazy. And I mean, you know, I can go to Apple Music and I can, and I can buy it, buy compressed versions of it for $9. So,
Right.
but yeah, crazy.
Yeah. Now that, you know, going back to remastering of things, even though, you know, your catalog was remastered, but if someone, let's say like Stephen Wilson did get you guys on the radar, would you guys let him?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, Eric is the sound of rocket scientists,
Right.
and I like that. I don't know that I'd want to hear the Stephen Wilson rocket scientists. Maybe if it was surround only, but I think that the surround mixes work best when it's the you've got a stereo mix and then you spread it out.
Right.
So, but on the other hand, it's like he is pretty good at honoring the vibe and the sounds of the original mix when he does things. So, sure, you know, I'd be interested to hear it. But
Robert's in here.
yeah. Hey, Robert. I'm like looking down at the corner because that's where I see his name, but I realize that just looks stupid on camera.
Yeah, you know, I think some things, you know, like for 5.1 will work. I think your a rocket scientist music, I think will work.
And there's some of the stuff I believe I believe the videos of the 2007 sessions on that DVD that they are in surround, but I think, you know, Eric didn't really. It was more like just kind of spread things a little bit and put the reverb in the back. You know, it's definitely surround, but it's not like gimmicky surround, which I think is good.
Also, it makes the music more fun. You know, and especially when you get to hear it, you know, on your headphones, it's like it even more so. You know, especially when you got, you know, songs that take you to whatever the songwriter was writing about. You know, like songs like Avalon and Mariner, for instance. Those two are ones for me. You know, it's like you can close your eyes and you can sort of picture where the story is.
That's
You
interesting.
know,
I hadn't thought of those songs as a pair because of the sea imagery and everything, but you're right. Just
you
throw a
know,
salty dog in there and it's like which we've covered.
yeah. You know, it's like both of those, and then to find out later on, you know, um, I I mean, I didn't know that that was on Mariner, that was Eric singing. I thought that was you with doing a
Oh
deeper
yeah.
voice.
I
And
miss
then and then,
Eric singing.
and Eric told me that, and I'm like, going, "What? Are you sure?" You know, I was thinking to myself, really, you know, I said, "That's really cool." And he said, you know, and that wasn't something, you know, he wanted, I guess, didn't want to visit or whatever. Um, and that's why when the guys re-recorded that song with Kelly on, you know, that took a completely different vibe to the song.
I think that's where he always heard the song going. And it was the first time that anyone had ever really realized that vision.
Yeah, because I thought that was really cool that when you guys added him into the band, Kelly into the band, and I had a friend of mine back home when he heard that, you know, because you know Kelly has a more, you know, rock, very
Yeah.
hard rock sound to him, and my friend was like going, "Well, what direction are they going in?" I said, "I think maybe they just wanted something different."
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's to me. for a progressive rock band, you know, you have to do something different. You know, I mean, there's a ton of them out there, and especially now that you can line up, put if you have the equipment, put all their music, you know, there's CDs in a and have them playing at this almost at the same time, and they all have a similar vibe. And then you have bands that, you know, that decide, well, the next album is not going to sound like the previous one, because, you know, basically we already did that. You know, we want to do more. And in some ways, to me, it's when a band does the same thing over and over again for like 3 or 4 albums, you know, it's like it kind of in a way is insulting to the listener, because it's like, oh wait, you did this song part 5, you know, it's the same
Yeah.
song done over and over again, just with different lyrics.
Yeah, I always felt like the second King Crimson record is suffers from that a little bit, because if you look at it, the first song sound on it sounds just like 21st Century Schizoid Man. The second song sounds just like I Talk to the Wind, and the third song sounds just like Epitaph. And it's like the side one are like mirror images of each other. And I have since grown to love each of those songs on their own, but when I first heard it, I was like, really?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I think part of it, what you're saying though, is like I think that you ultimately want to just do something that really honors the song and that brings the song to life in the way that you wanted. I think the best example I can think of is Pink Floyd, Have a Cigar, where, you know, there are studio versions out there on box sets and on live bootlegs and stuff, where you hear Roger Waters and Dave Gilmour singing Have a Cigar in harmony, and it sounds awful. I mean, maybe we would have all grown to love it if it had been canon, and if they had like worked on it and, like, you know, finessed a performance that was worthy of something that, you know, with their level of polish. But man, Roy Harper slays that song in the studio. It's just awesome, and it sounds like Pink Floyd, you know.
Right. Yeah. And I think when it comes back to where bands do uh, album after album, same thing over and over again, is also the record label's fault,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to repeat the success of
Oh, you're saying if the record label is pushing them in that direction, they're like,
direction.
give us what we're familiar with.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was reading somewhere that the band Kansas was had that pressure when, you know, Carry On, you know, the record label wanted almost a whole album full of that style of music, and I they basically said no, and we're going to do what we're going to do. And I think that's, I mean, some bands have that power to be able to say that to their record labels. Others just, you know, either that or, you know, we go back to the, you know, our beginnings where we weren't making any money and no one knew who we were. So it's like they kind of buckle under the pressure. And
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and then there are albums where, like, you know, they have the record company wants something different, and then the record just never comes out. I've definitely seen. I can't think of an example of that offhand right now, but I know that that has happened. Or the record label like sends it back and they want, like, you know, okay, so throw out these two and add these three, or and you hear the outtakes and they're better than the stuff that eventually got put on there.
yeah, and a majority of the time,
In the case of Maroon 5, I read that on their first record, one of their biggest hits, Harder to Breathe, is actually, that's what that was. The record company was like, no, you need something more commercial. And so they wrote a really commercial song about how their record company was making it harder for them to breathe.
right. Um, what was it? There was just so, yeah, like you say, so many different times where it's like, different their albums, be shelved because the record label didn't like it. The Beach Boys, Smile, that one,
Right.
because it was just at that time that was an insane piece of music. And
But I mean, more of that was because Brian just like lost his mind.
right, yeah,
He
and
couldn't finish it because they were ready to release it. They had album sleeves and booklets, and everything was all printed and ready to go with all the song titles and everything. In fact, for my birthday one year, I don't know where it is. I thought it was sitting around here somewhere, but it's probably out in the garage. But my the artist who did the cover for Smile, which didn't come out until just a few years ago when they put together an archival kind of thing, but he was selling like lithos of it that were signed by the guy who drew the cover and everything, and I got one of those.
oh wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the only thing honestly that I own from the Beach Boys is Pet Sounds, primarily because the year of my birth,
Uh-huh.
and my I believe my parents used to listen to it for a while until they kind of went stayed away from pop music, and they were just listening to more like uh, the standards, from
Hmm.
the 40s, 30s, and 40s. That was my dad's big thing,
That's great.
and that's what he liked to do. And he used to sing along with the stuff. And I told him, I said, why didn't you do something like, oh no, I'm just messing around. And I think I think there is some singers out there, how you call them, the shower singers that are really good, and then
Right.
some that I think also too nowadays everybody's looking at uh, an image. You got to have okay, you may have the perfect voice, but do you have the perfect image? And they're
Right.
more concerned with that. Because I watched this one documentary, I believe it was almost 13 or 14 years ago. It's like I forgot the name of it, but they were talking about different music singers that if they were to record today, they wouldn't get a recording contract. Uh, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, because they were blind.
Right.
They didn't have an image that at the and now that's where music in the music company is like they want a good looking person. Who cares if they can't sing? We can fix that, in the studio, and it's
Yeah,
like
exactly. You can fake the other stuff is the thinking, but I mean it results in really slick, polished stuff, but it's polishing a turd, as we say. It's like
right.
if there's not you're just not giving a chance to like real artists. It's interesting there's like I'm sure you're familiar with Billie Eilish. Really interested in her because she's very keenly aware of that stuff. So I don't know like if you like have seen images of her and what have you, but it's
Yeah, I've
like
seen image of.
she wears incredibly baggy, like oversized clothes so that no one knows what her body looks like. And she does that very much on purpose because, it's like she doesn't want to be sexualized because she's so young. And so, if there's, a really shapely small body underneath there, then she doesn't want to be taken advantage of. But if
Right.
it's not, then, she doesn't want to be shamed either. And I think it's really cool that like it's kept the focus on her music, and that's pretty smart.
I think it was the music that died or something like that. I forget. It was just an interesting title, and they had one segment where they had a guy that he was a, a singer songwriter that for whatever reason he never made it, but he did more studio stuff, Well, he started off, the producers of the thing told him, just make a little simple song, He did that, and then they took that little simple acoustic guitar and piano, uh, and then he had piano ones, and then they got it like a model to sing it, but she couldn't carry a tune to save her life. And then adding the auto tune, and then adding all those, the newer beats and everything going on, and it's like it was like a night and day between something that in the 70s would have sold, and that in the 2000s that was, and I me it was it just kind of showing how pop today is, it's not the same as it used to be, how they approach it. I mean, obviously it's not going to be the same because newer sounds coming out, but the way some of these things are approached, it's almost like there's no musicians in it. It's just programmers is what they're relying mostly on programming rather than musicians actually playing the music.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like, some people are like, oh, I know that they jokingly go, oh, the guitar is going to be extinct, in a few years, and it's like, I don't think so, but it's certainly not as in the forefront of a lot of modern music,
Yeah, it's
unless.
interesting. I saw a thing on YouTube. There's a few different channels that I really like that have some great content. And I forget which one it was, but there was one that talked about how guitar rock is or rock music is dying and is pretty much dead. And it was interesting because he showed statistics of, he defined rock music as songs that feature distorted electric guitar, and it's like the rock bands that are still getting airplay and what have you, like the Coldplay and that kind of thing, are more and more moving to acoustic and keyboards, and so you're just not hearing a lot. So obviously it's like there's metal stuff, but it's not on the top 100. There's the kind of the last bastion of that is like Green Day and some of those kinds of bands that are just about them, and like Fall Out Boy and a few of the others are still making guitar music, but it's and they, when you say it's dying, it's it's all relative. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because it's it's going to have a thriving underground scene. It's like, it used to be that like Miles Davis type jazz was like on the charts. You'd have like Take Five and some of these kinds of things, and that's dead for all intents and purposes now. But as far as like commercial mainstream pop music goes, but it's a thriving scene still.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's what a lot of people don't take into account, that the previous generation's music is gonna always be pushed. I want to say pushed aside, but kind of like, you're over here now. Now this is our main focus. What because music has always been, I read this, that music has always been a younger person's thing.
Right.
Because obviously, a lot of young kids, they start, in our day, in the garage, getting friends over that they like all the same kind of music, and then they do that. And nowadays it's like they don't their garage is now their bedroom. You know, they
Yeah.
they get their little, their keyboards or their, programming equipment, and they can record stuff that way. And so
Well, one thing that I think is interesting though is that, you know, it's, I see people reacting with sad faces and stuff like that, but I think it's actually can be a good thing as far as artistically speaking, because when the record company is no longer driving the content in the way that they used to and making the decisions as to what gets made and what doesn't, you're going to see a lot more like art for art's sake, and you're going to see artists, you know, find their way in different avenues. The thing that is sad is just the what's the opportunity for actually like creating a revenue stream for an independent artist. You know, something has to change with how Spotify just, you know, rapes the artists and
Oh, I
takes all
know.
the profit and that kind of stuff. So that's definitely something that needs attention, and there needs to be some way that artists can make money. But as far as the actual, you know, I think getting the big corporations away from having any control over what the music is that's made, I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I had recently, like over the summer, got a Spotify account, and then my friend was telling me all about how they're not paying the artists, and I was like, okay. So then I went back into the thing uh, and unsubscribed from it. You know, canceled the thing, and I took the apps off of all the different things I had them on, and I was like, no. I said, I mean, it's a lazy way to get things, but I think a lot of people are not doing how I when I listen to something on those kind of a platforms is I listen to it as to see if I want to actually buy it.
Right. Yeah.
You
I
know,
feel the same
instead of
because like now Amazon doesn't have sound samples on their website anymore. Like you know, you go and you can't click on the samples and check out what's on the release. But I do that with Spotify, where you know, that way I can go, I can hear what's there. I'm still going to want to own it. I'm not one who's focused on physical media because I just like I don't even know. I mean, my computers don't even have CD drives built into them anymore. There's no CD player. Well, no, that's not true. There is a CD player in my car, but I don't use it. I just use it
right.
to connect to my phone and stream stuff. So, I mean, it's a vehicle that I use, but if I like something, I'm going to want to actually support the artist with my money. You know, I find that lately I like do that with like Patreon and you know, doing things with independent artists and GoFundMe and all of that kind of stuff. You're seeing a lot more of that kind of thing. And I don't buy a lot of new music. I think the last, I'm trying to think of what the last, well, okay, I bought the new Paul McCartney record. I bought the latest Elbow record. I bought the latest Nora Jones record. Those are like my latest purchases of like mainstream music. I believe I got the St. Vincent's Mass Seduction, which is a really great record.
Yeah, there's been a few uh, blind purchases that I've done, but they were based on friends' recommendation that they have not steered me wrong. And uh, two of the latest ones that I got over the 2020 was a band called Trillion and a
Hmm.
band called Zon. And Zon is a Canadian band, and both of them have like a kind of a Styx vibe to it.
Hmm.
But there was like I want to say, well, Zon almost reminds me of Styx meets Queen,
Interesting.
and I never heard of these bands before, but my friend kept on mentioning these, and I go, okay, if you say they are good as what they are, you say they are, okay, I'm going to take a chance. And and other people over the years, I respect their music taste. Um, like I heard of Ecstasy, but I never owned any of their stuff. I mean, when I was working in a record store back in 1990. the manager there played a lot of their early stuff. So it's like I was aware of them, I heard them, but I never owned anything. And my friend, and I'm thinking your friend too, Carrie.
Carrie Compost?
Yeah, he
He's a Facebook friend, and he's played music with a lot of people that I know really well, but I don't think he and I have ever actually met.
yeah he told me about Skylarking, and the way he was just raving over it, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I've got
that's
to
my
get this
favorite
in.
record. And that's
And
another one with a 5.1 Stephen Wilson remix. And I learned about that one because Todd Rundgren produced it, and I'm a big Todd fan.
yeah, when he told me about that, and that was one of the ones that uh, just didn't steer me wrong. You know, when I listened to it, I was like going, now I hear what, you know, the excitement that he had over it. I hear that excitement whenever I listen to
Yeah,
that thing. So
there was another record that they did right at the same time, and they put it out under an assumed name, the Dukes of Stratosphere. And they put out an EP and a record, and they collected it all together on a reissue that's in 5.1 with a Stephen Wilson mix and all that kind of stuff. And it's very much meant to sound like Pink Floyd Piper at the Gates of Dawn and The Move, and like, you know, all of that like late 60s really psychedelic, mid to late 60s really very psychedelic type stuff. There's even a song that sounds like it could be on Smile.
oh wow,
But that's a good one to check out.
yeah, you know, there's, I mean, granted, you know, there's a lot of new stuff that's coming out, but it's like so much of it's coming out all at the same time, and then you got bands that are putting out these super deluxe versions of their things, or they're putting out these limited editions that once they're gone, we're not going to reprint it, you
Right.
know. And I can understand if that's coming from an independent band, but when you have bands that are on nowadays the bigger labels.
Well, McCartney's the worst, man. He like he had like, you know, 10 different colors of vinyl, and he'd have like different versions of the record that came with a t-shirt, and each one came with a different bonus track. And then what'll happen is people will buy all of that, and that's all so that, because basically every one of those sales counts as a record sale. So that was how he got to number one, is that he had all these diehard fans buying 5 copies of the same record. And then what'll happen is 6 months from now, he'll put out a deluxe box for $150 that has all of the tracks and all of the, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And so even though you bought 5 records when it first came out, you're going to buy the box again if you're, you know, a sucker fan like me.
And that it all that thing also goes for with movies. It's like
Mm.
I've been a little more into movie over this past year or so. I've been more into movies, and the same thing. It's like, okay, I get the when it gets reissued from first when it was VHS to DVD. Okay,
Right.
that's that's an obvious upgrade there. And then from DVD to Blu-ray, and then now with the 4K,
Yeah.
and then I hear on the horizon they're already not only doing 8K, but they got 10K coming out, and it's like, where
That's
do you
crazy. Yeah.
stop?
I think Eric stopped at DVD. I stopped at Blu-ray.
Yeah, I'm
But yeah,
stopping at Blu-ray because it's like, especially when there was this one, I forget what the company was. They had just put earlier in 2020 or something like that, the Blu-ray, and then not even 6 months later, they're putting out the 4K of it. So it's like I I think it's like it's not so much that they're trying to get you with the new technology, it's they're trying to get your money. You know, they're not really caring so much as you know, there is some movies that look fantastic on Blu-ray that looked kind of really muddy on DVD and
Yeah, I haven't upgraded my
VHS.
TV, so some of this doesn't even matter to me, but
Well,
um, maybe
one
some.
movie that actually has a Prague connection is Suspiria, with Goblin.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
I've always wanted to hear that and see it. I haven't.
the original one, when they put it on Blu-ray, this was a just basically not telling the story, but how the director stylized the look was different colors, and they were vibrant colors, and it was missing on the VHS, and then on the DVD. They could never get the color. They could never get the colors right. But when they
Uh-huh.
got to Blu-ray, they were so vibrant. So it was almost like it was like watching the movie for the first time, so vibrant. And then Goblin right there, they're like, this Italian progressive band that does their big claim to fame is, doing the horror movie soundtrack. And
Right.
so it's like,
Yeah,
and
I know about them. I just haven't ever heard it.
I think you might like them. They're obviously, a lot of the Italian bands, they tend to some mimic the English progressive bands.
Mhm.
Some of them too much so that it's like they sound like ripoffs. Others, uh, um, like Goblin and their keyboardist Claudio Simonente. He, uh, in a way, Eric kind of reminds me of his playing,
Mhm.
whereas and Claudio did a lot of like the '80s, a lot of the '80s horror movies where you know, you listen to it and you know that that's '80s sounding
Right.
music, and that's what I noticed. There's a lot of
Is it instrumental? Is it all instrumental?
uh, yeah, Goblin is all instrumental, and same with Claudio's solo stuff. I think he has vocals on it, but they're more of like they're using them more as instruments.
Mhm.
Like uh, uh, like in Suspiria, there's a lot of
Like choral
uh,
kind of thing.
choral, yeah, and I found out later on he even did some of the sounds, and it's on that with his voice. So it's really
Yeah,
they got a big connection to the prog scene, and
I'll definitely have to check that out. I'm really into the instrumental, uh, keyboard oriented instrumental stuff. A lot of times I'll use that as I work, because if it doesn't have lyrics, it doesn't distract me. So really, my favorite things to work to. It's weird because on my Spotify playlist, because I do use Spotify, I'll but it's pretty much stuff that I own. So like I do I have a playlist that's all Tangerine Dream, and then like sometimes Tomita and stuff like that. And so it's like when they show me my favorites, it's always have you checked out this new Brian Eno ambient thing?
right,
And
yeah,
I
that was
get a lot of that kind of stuff. The French band Air is another one that I'm really into.
yeah,
So
that's the one thing that I noticed with that Spotify. It's like all of a sudden I'm trying to make a playlist, and then they're suggesting things that, why are you even suggesting?
right.
It's like, is it because it has their I think their algorithm is not so much the music part of it, but the name of the band or the name of the song
Oh, right.
titles. It's like no, I'm not looking for. It's like um, I was trying to do an all prog one, and then all of a sudden they were giving me death metal. I'm like going, no, that's just not in the same area, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
This
there's crossovers, so it's like Opeth definitely has
right.
a foot in each of those worlds. So yeah, I guess it's probably just they've seen that other people who like that kind of music that you're liking, like, well, sometimes like some of that other stuff is probably how it works.
Yeah, so
Because
there's
I went I saw Opeth. Well, actually, I saw Porcupine Tree open for Opeth, and they really I was like, okay, Swedish death metal. Yeah, I'm probably going to be leaving, but I'm going to stay for the first song just to check it out. And then they did that record that Steven Wilson produced, where there are no Cookie Monster vocals and everything has
right.
lots of mellotron and there's no distorted guitar. And it was just like, wow. And I ended up staying for the whole show. And I've come to have an appreciation for them. Even some of their, I don't like any of the stuff with the grunting kind of vocals, but
Right.
some of their later stuff, there's bits that sound like Dio or Old Rainbow or that kind of thing. And I really like some of their stuff. I'd love to see them live sometime again.
Well, if you check out, I don't know how to pronounce. I guess it's uh, on YouTube. He does a lot of little interviews,
Hmm.
and he is a huge progressive rock fan.
Who's this?
The lead singer
Oh,
for
Michael Ackerfeld.
Opeth, yeah,
Michael Ackerfeld. Yeah.
he is huge. He
Hmm.
likes like a band that I would never expect, based on his, Opeth's music for him to like. Camel.
Oh yeah.
He likes
Camel's
Camel.
a band I've never checked out, and I think I'd like them because I know there's some Alan Parsons overlap and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces, and I like what I've heard, but they're just someone. Camel, Gentle Giant, I never got into. I was kind of put off by Gentle Giant's vocals, but lately there was that collaborative internet lockdown version of Proclamation, and it just blew my mind. What a great tune. And then I like went and checked some of their other stuff out, and I really enjoyed it, but I kind of don't know how to get into it. But there was another one where they have a really great video that they did recently to promote one of the re-releases, and so I got into that too.
Yeah,
Christian has been selling me on them for a while.
yeah. What was it? That Gentle Giant. That was the one that they put out, where their fans were contributing.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking, the Proclamation one. So it's like it started out where it was like a fan group. Well, I don't know if this is how it started, but it was a fan group, and they had people. They said just play Proclamation and send it in to us or post it on YouTube. And then they took bits and pieces of like 30 or 40 different cover versions, and then the band actually did their own stuff and they blended it all together, and it's really
Yeah,
cool.
I mean that right there is a great way to say thank you to the fans, and also to bring in new people into.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, there were some famous people and mixed in there, like Jacko from King Crimson was one of them, and it seems like there were at least three or four other like well-known guys doing stuff.
yeah, a lot of these bands, because of this lockdown, that obviously you can't go out and play live. They're doing a lot of these lockdown cover versions of stuff. Um, Drummer from Anthrax has been doing a lot of them, and he even um, surprised me. They did a Fleetwood Mac song. I think it was Rhiannon.
Rhiannon, yeah.
Yeah, they did that. They got,
Huh.
and I'm like going, and I think I saw an interview where he said just because I play this style of metal doesn't mean that I don't have appreciation for other music or likes of other music. So it's like think a lot, that's where a lot of, I notice I have a lot of friends that are like that, where they just, I will only listen to a certain kind of music, no matter what. I don't care if there's other great music out there. I'm just sticking with what I'm only listen to. And I go, okay, but you know, you are missing out. And 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 I said, I speak from experience. In the mid mid to late '80s, I was listening to only a certain kind of thrash metal.
Hmm.
I would not listen to anything else. And then in the early '90s, I was only listening to uh, grunge. Then mid '90s to late '90s, I was only listening to progressive rock. So it wasn't honestly until the last 20 years that I've opened my mind, saying, okay, now there is other stuff out there. I'm going to go and get into things that I missed the first time around because I was too blind to it. I wasn't accepting that there was other music out there. Being in a way snobbish about it. Now I listen to so much different kinds of music, and that's why I think a lot of people miss out on wherever they're whatever style of music they're listening to. If they're only that's all they're going to listen to, um, I think they're really missing out. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much old, so much new, that's out there that, I mean, granted, in our lifetimes, we're not going to get everything that's out there. So, get as much as you can,
Yeah.
and have, you can have a moment where, let's say you're in a singer-songwriter mood and then there's some where you're just in a heavy metal mood, and then anywhere in between, it's like, I think that's the beauty of music. It's like you can different moods, and whether it's your mood or the mood of your scenery that you're in, or the climate of the world, it's like
Yeah.
everything is it's and also too, for me, and I've said it numerous times, is music is the one thing that kind of keeps me grounded, uh, especially in today's climate, all craziness, that music is my escape. And I think a lot of people are like that, I do listen to, Sal saying he doesn't listen to mainstream. I do listen to some, but I noticed that after the '90s, just got to the point where mainstream music is just too much of a commodity rather than music.
Yeah, it's funny. I kept up with mainstream music, probably until the mid 2000s or so, or the mid like 2005 ish, um, and now it's like I pretty much learn about stuff through my son and my daughter. My daughter has amazing taste, and she's always turning me on to cool stuff. The I really like her favorite artists are Phoebe Bridgers, who's a pretty big deal these days, and Z Berg is another one that's really great. Z is in particularly really amazing. She just released an album during lockdown, and she's been playing the songs live for quite a while, and she's from a musical family. Her dad is Tony Berg, who used to be the head of A&R at Geffen Records. He signed back and he produced. He's produced a bunch of records. He produced a record for Mike Pinder from the Moody Blues, and then he went on to do a bunch of other stuff. And she used to be in a band with Mitchell Froome's daughter, who's another like big time producer, produced like Crowded House and Los Lobos. And the other person in the band was the daughter of Tennessee Thomas from Elvis Costello's band. So it's like all prodigies, you know.
Right.
And she did this record, and it sounds like noir kind of 60s, like you know, music, and it's all got it's all basically either acoustic guitar or piano with string arrangements, and that's the whole thing. And it's just really like timeless and classic sounding. um and so yeah, that's one of my favorite records of late. And she didn't release it on CD. It's like, this is where we are now. she
Oh, I
she
know.
she put it out on, you know, Spotify and on YouTube and on all the digital streaming platforms, and she made vinyl copies of it and that kind of thing. My daughter bought the vinyl, but she didn't put it out on CD, which is just really pretty insane. But yeah, really great songs.
Yeah, I had one of my friends that I interviewed, Christopher from Echoland, and he was saying, you know, he's a music teacher, and he had a stack of CDs that he had in his car, and she said, why do you do that? You know, why don't you just have like some digital thing go, you know? And it's like, come from different times where it's like, you know, a CD, what's that? You know, it's like it's just the same way as how some of the younger people reacted to when a record, what's that? You know, or a cassette, what's
Yeah.
that? You know, it's like, I think,
Well, I still prefer that. I mean, I prefer physical medium, and I prefer having like artwork that's associated with the product, and I prefer, you know, obviously uncompressed audio and all of that kind of thing. But the reality is, you don't hear the difference when you're in your car.
no, no.
And you know, on your phone you have instant access to whatever you want. And it's just, you know, I remember when I used to go on trips, like when we went on our honeymoon in 92, you know, I stayed up all night for a couple of nights, like making cassettes of like mixtapes and like all the music that I wanted to have. And I had this box of cassettes and my Walkman with me. And it's so nice not to have that now.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's where technology is fantastic. You know, like I was saying earlier, you know, how I ripped the CD onto my computer, and then I put it onto a thumb drive and put it in my car. So it's like, it's easier for me.
Yeah.
And then of course I have, you know, whenever I buy something on Amazon, you know how they give you that MP3 of it,
Right, exactly.
you know, for that, it's for the convenience. But when people only use Spotify because they don't want to buy the music, that's
Right.
when,
Yeah, that's
you
just
know,
lame.
it's like,
If you're gonna enjoy it and you're gonna like experience it and come back over and over to it, then you should buy it. Just
yeah,
to
I mean,
support the artist.
yeah, one of them's the guy's students said, you know, why should I buy it when it's on Spotify or, uh, different, sites like that? And it's like, because the musicians need to be paid so that they can make more.
And I do think that it's on the artist a little bit to make whatever it is that they're selling compelling. You know, I want to, if I'm going to buy something, I really hope that there's a lossless version that I can get, and that there's, you know, some kind of artwork. It's not a deal breaker, but you know, I really love it when like a Bandcamp artist, like some people even put up like 24-bit versions of these things that you can download, and that's pretty cool. And you know, occasionally you'll get the PDF booklet and that kind of thing. um, and if they've got all of that kind of stuff, then I don't need the physical media at all. uh,
Right.
you know, because I feel like I'm getting the full experience, and I don't have to hassle with where do I store all of this stuff, because you know, we're living where I live in California. It's like we're always you know, in danger of fires and that kind of thing. And I just
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
to leave all this stuff and let it burn at this point, you know. And it would be nice if I just had like, a box that had some box sets and some of the things that are signed, and a few. In fact, I've got all of my signed things put together in one place so that I can take them if something happens. And then everything else I've got ripped. Although I've ripped things, I think I ripped it all like as MP3s a long, long time ago. And now that storage is what it is, I always, as soon as I get something, I rip it at full resolution, and then I store the CD in the garage.
Yeah, I think, by doing, the pure convenience of having a digital, is what a lot of people, I mean, from our generation, is what we look at.
I was just commenting to Robert here. He was talking about some of the online streaming that has stuff that's at better quality, that how's their selection.
Right. Yeah. But I see a lot of people complain, and I put it up there more as a joke, where it's like there's no new good music out there. And I think what it is, I think what someone was originally trying to convey with that is, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s, music was all the good music. You went to the record stores and you saw it there. You were able to grab it. Nowadays, because where record stores are a dying breed, people are buying everything online.
Right.
So they're only, even though we got the internet where you got everything, the world of music at your fingertips, people are not getting the whole world. They're only singing in certain places, or listening to music that's being used as soundtrack, on soundtrack. So it's like, that's their only way of knowing what's new in music, is through a movie, rather than, exploring. It's almost like everything is like handed to them nowadays, whereas in our day we had to go look for it.
Right.
Because there was very, very few songs were in movies. I mean, it would maybe like one or two hit songs in a movie, but now it's like the whole soundtrack is hit song.
Yeah. I find that like now I'm finding out about things from the bands themselves on their own social media sites. I'm following all the bands that I would be buying stuff by, at least for that kind of stuff. New stuff is a bigger challenge, but it's a matter of I'll get served the new video by such and such a band, or I'll get a Facebook notification. That's how I found out about all the Elbow stuff. Are you an Elbow fan? I'm just curious.
I had a friend of mine send me a bunch of their music. He sent me files of it, and I haven't been able to go in there and download them, and then also unzip the files. And a lot of times when I get files and I try to put it up into onto the thumb drive, it comes out in different song orders.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's like I have to go in there and just manually input what song titles. I have to look on Wikipedia to see what the songs, their original order is, and make sure that out that way. And it's like, I think he sent me almost the whole catalog.
Yeah, they're great. It's funny, my there were a couple of people that had told me about them off and on, and then finally my wife started listening to their stuff at work, and really got into them, like really deeply got into them. And so she was like playing me stuff, and I was like, yeah, it's cool. It's great, and I liked it, but I just like I'm just not very receptive to listening to new stuff anymore. It's kind of sad. And so I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything that like drew me in. I wanted to explore it more. And then they came to town and she said, look, we're going to see them. And so she bought tickets to see them, and they are a phenomenal band live, just amazing. And I was completely and utterly won over. So then of course I like, got really into them and checked out their back catalog and everything. And then it was like probably another year and a half went by and they came back to town and we went to see them again. And this time I was so all in. I knew the stuff that they played, but there were a couple of like I hadn't really checked out the first couple of records. So I went on Discogs and found all the special editions with the right combination of bonus tracks and the video and all that kind of stuff, and got everything in all of that. And so I like completed the whole collection, and now I'm just a fanatic. And then the third time they came to town, since we went to see him again, and that was right before lockdown. It was at the end of January, and that was when they released their latest record. And so unbelievably, it's been like a year ago now, but went with Heidi Hornbacher and her husband, who she does a lot of works with Eric Nielsen doing videos for Eric and Lana, and she's great. And so we actually went to see Elbow. I think they've been at all the shows, but we like actually went to dinner with them and hung out and sat together at the last show and then also at the one before. So they're kind of like our Elbow buddies. So, and I know Matt Brown, who you had
Yes.
as a guest. He's all in. He's probably
Oh
the
yeah.
man I know.
I see him mentioning him almost on a weekly basis on
They
them.
were at the beginning of lockdown. They did this thing where they called it Elbow Room, and they did a song a week, and they did it for I want to say like 8 or 9 weeks. And would do like various songs from their back catalog, and usually, and it would look like a Zoom meeting, but obviously you can't really do that in real time. So they would collaborate and get it to where they were all, but they presented it like a Zoom meeting. And on one of them, they actually like got a string section, and then so the band's playing, and then when the string section came in, it like expanded with more people on the screen and that kind of stuff. And they ended up taking all of those that they had done, and they put it together as like a release that you can buy now.
Well, talking about Zoom, I was mentioning to quite a few people that I've so far done these shows with that someone out there in the engineering world should create something like a concert version of this. So it's like if the band members are either in different parts of the town or different parts of the country or the world, that if I know it's the syncing that's the issue.
It's about latency, really, because I mean, it's like by the time, especially if you're talking about super high quality stuff, then by the time it gets to the internet, or it gets to whatever server is managing everything and then can be served back to the other person, there's too much of a delay to be able to play in real time.
Right.
So that's really kind of the issue. And I know that there are things that kind of sort of work, but then still it's like, who and how is it mixed, and how does it it's pretty challenging. I could see some stripped down acoustic things, but as far as like a real like live band kind of situation, that would be pretty difficult.
Right. But
unless,
yeah. Or the other thing is, if the band lives within a reasonable distance, and especially with COVID, they have themselves tested frequently to do something like renting out. I was thinking like rent out a studio. And
I've
seen
that. In fact, Billie Eilish did that I think it was at the Troubadour, where she she did it at Red Rocks, because it's like nothing going on at Red Rocks now. So she took her whole band, and they were able to just like totally spread out across the stage. And no, not Billie Eilish. It was Phoebe Bridgers. but she yeah, and they did like a show at Red Rocks that was like really professionally done, and just, you know, did it as a webcast.
Yeah, I think
Wish there
something
was
like
more of
that.
that.
Yeah, because and even, you know, like I was talking to one person that said, you got the lockdown where you can't go to concerts and whatnot. Now the other thing that will this benefit is, let's just say, for instance, rocket scientists when they played in New Jersey.
Hmm.
Now someone, I mean, there's very few people out there that can actually afford to travel. And I noticed there was people that coming out of country to that. But the ones that couldn't, that's where a webcast right there would benefit, because, you know, because, you know, a lot of people miss out. You know, it's not because they don't want to be there, it's just they can't afford to be there. I mean, I think the concert tickets aren't really the issue on the cost, but it's uh, transportation to get there, and then hotel rooms. It's like those are crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
because
totally.
when you're going to a concert and you rent a hotel room, you're not really fully using that hotel room eh, the way
Yeah,
you
it's the
would
place
on a
to crash.
regular vacation. You know, it's basically that place to crash or to leave your clothes. You know, because you're not going to be used staying in that room, and so it gets expensive. So if they did a webcast of the show, then people will be able to see it. You know, someone, let's say that out in California that couldn't make it out to your New Jersey show, really wanted to support you guys and see it. The
Yeah,
webcast.
I see Sal made mention of a drive-in movie theater that does things where, you know, you stay in your car and watch the show. And we actually went to one of those things recently, and it was like it was like a local theater thing. So it was like cabaret night, and they're doing show tunes and stuff like that. And it it's really surreal. It was kind of cool. They, you know, everyone was on the stage, and they had a big screen that you could watch, and then they had like they had someone there doing live sound, but then they had like a local broadcast thing, so that like anyone within, like, you know, a mile or whatever could actually receive the show on their radio. And it was pretty cool because, you know, you get this perfect pristine sound from the board. um, and that was a lot of fun. I've seen that. And then the other thing that I know is coming up is kind of like the Phoebe Bridgers thing that I talked about. Todd Rundgren, who's always keen to jump on technology, especially before it's baked. He's set up his band and everything in a theater in Chicago, so kind of like Phoebe did, where it's like I don't know which theater it is. It could be like the whatever theater it is where there's a theater in Chicago that they always film stuff at. I know that they there's a Porcupine Tree Live thing from there, maybe the Riviera, but he's got his band all set up, and they're going to put on a tour there. So what they do, at least the original idea was that he's going to play like 20 shows, and then he would do some kind of geo fencing so that you could, if you were within, like he would do a show for the LA area, and if you lived within the LA area, you could buy tickets for that show, and you would be getting that one. And then the next night they'd be doing, so it's like a totally a virtual tour. And
Oh,
it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's interesting that like it allows them to have a tour experience where the songs develop over time and that kind of thing. And eventually I think they would sell like multi-packs, so you could buy like 5 shows and it would be a discount and that kind of thing. We'll have to see how that whole thing goes. I definitely want to check out at least one of them.
oh yeah, that is a good idea. And then, um, you know, I was thinking, you know, from the musician standpoint, the only downside from that is you're not getting the vibe off the audience because you
Right.
can't see it. You can't see them. We see you, but we can't see you. Can't see them. You know, and that's the only downside. But I think
It's interesting
we
though. I
got.
mean, it can work. He did an album that way where he did a series of concerts, and he wanted the sound of a live band playing together. So for one series, for one album, he just did everything live with no overdubs and would like play it until they got it, and then that was it, you know. And so, you know, they do a couple of songs a day or something, and but it was all in the studio. And then for the next record, he decided he missed the audience, so he would he did a little tour where he would like play all of the songs, but it was essentially rehearsals. So they were only doing the songs that were going to be on that record. And sometimes they would do songs multiple times in order to just like work stuff out. And then after doing the little tour in LA and San Francisco, or I guess it was in LA, they did a series of like 5 shows at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. And they asked the audience to not clap after the songs. And so you get a live recording in front of an audience, but there's no audience sound. And that was pretty cool. That was the Second Wind record, which is really good.
Yeah, a lot of, you know, technology now. You got a lot of things we can do, and I'm kind of surprised that not a lot of the bigger bands or bigger artists now aren't really fully taking advantage of that. You know, especially because I do see some that where they have their full band. Obviously, they're spaced apart, so it's like playing little gigs here and there, you know. But it's like maybe if they did, you know, a webcast of it, they would probably get maybe not the full um, financial recovery of their what they would have done if they played live, but at least something, and then have that when or if we ever get back to that way, they'll have the best of both worlds right there.
Yeah, it's true. I think what's going to be interesting going forward is seeing how much of how life has changed will carry over, you know. In the workplace, you know, now so many of us are working from home. I work from home all the time. And so, I mean, we're finding that, you know, we're paying for this huge office space, not huge, but I mean, we're paying for a large office space. And we found that a lot of us don't really need to be there all the time. So, you know, when our lease comes up, I don't know, are we going to renew it? Are we going to find something smaller? What are we going to do? You know, we do miss the in-person collaboration and there's certainly something missing, but maybe we could manage that if people came in shifts or came in, you know, where there was people are mostly working from home, but we've got like 1 or 2 days a week where everyone like meets together and shares stuff and shows each other things. And I think you'll see the same thing in music. I hope that artists will continue directly talking to their fans, and that there will be acoustic webcasts. And, you know, when you see like Paul Simon playing acoustic stuff, or the Elbow Room things and all of that kind of stuff, that people will still do like live interactive shows or special online stripped down, more personal kind of things. I hope that continues even when we can do shows again. And I think maybe, you know, people are probably a little, first of all, there are technological hurdles for the live thing. And, you know, also, you know, I think people are a little hesitant to try to embrace something that fundamentally changes what that's all about, because when we're able to be in person again, you know, you want people to really still value that and not think, well, you know what, I can just go check out one of the online webcasts because it's fine. You know, it's more convenient.
Right.
I can see things better. I can hear things better. And I mean, to me, it's like I miss nothing more than the like, you know, being in the crowd and experiencing that music and all of that kind of stuff. It's just a whole different kind of thing that I really miss. But, you know, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see that, you know, because you know, in the area that I'm in now, musically, it's not, a lot of the stuff isn't really what I'm into. It seems like we're primarily country and hip hop, which is kind of
Right.
a weird combination, but um, don't have that much rock. And if we do have any rock, it's usually, those revival shows, the bands, that are just
Right.
doing their greatest hits. And you don't have any brand new bands, or there was, every year except obviously last year, they had some like extreme metal festival. And it's like it seems like there's no happy mediums as to what comes up here,
Hmm.
So, and in order to see any of the good bands, you have to travel. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
that's
that's
where
one
I
thing
think that
that's
that's where I
living
think,
there.
yeah, LA, it's like just about every band in it, in existence will play there in some venue, whether it's a small club or one of the big arenas. So it's like, you'll guarantee to see, almost all of your favorite bands at some venue there.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I think obviously it's because it's a big population area, whereas here in Maine, it's um, I don't, I don't, I think the population from here is like the equivalent of maybe Los Angeles and San Francisco combined, the
Right.
population. So it's like, and the further north you go, the less amount of people there are. It's like, everything is concentrated on the central and southern part of Maine, so,
Right.
but, I guess it's, the regions and, populations that dictate where the bands go.
Mhm.
It's like, it's not going to be, for years I was trying to get people to come, to do something up this way, but financially it really wouldn't work, even though we're right in between. I noticed people that are in Canada that fly down to shows like in Boston and stuff like that, in those areas. And it's like completely bypasses where Maine is, and like Maine, it's like right in the middle,
Mhm.
but it's uh it's just the same as with some prog bands, not they don't get to play every they don't do big tours,
Yeah.
like they did in the 70s. In the 70s it was a different climate for music. They were I think they were a little more open things, and then it seems like each decade the mainstream audience is not as open minded,
Right.
you know. But going on 2.5 hours here.
Yeah. Well, it's been
Um,
fun.
yeah, I really enjoy when you know my musician friends come on and talk about their experiences, with past, present, and future. Some are working on albums, some um, are stuck in a rut when it comes to their music. It's just really how their personal experiences with this. I do know with the COVID, it actually is giving you that opportunity. If you can do it, you have the time to do it, because the bands that used to go out and do touring, and then if their regular job, if they're working from home, they have possibly a little more time to do
Right.
things. But on the other hand, there's some people that, because they're working at home, they don't have a lot of time to do things, so it's just really their experiences, how this lockdown is affecting them and their jobs.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate that I mean, my creative space is just like right here in the middle of the family room. So it's not that different. The difference is having people here all the time. I mean, my daughter moved out and my wife works at Trader Joe's, and so she's away during the day, and I'm busy during the day too. But it's like and my son, he also works, but it's like it's sometimes it's hard to find time, but it's honestly not really that different than before as far as the available time to do things and be creative. It's just kind of a matter of being inspired. But I've had fun just doing covers and that kind of thing lately, and I've started doing some original stuff as well recently, like I mentioned. But I'm just trying to kind of get a critical mass together to where I figure out, okay, what kind of a project is this, and what am I trying to say, and who do I want to work with? I know that there's several people that I've always wanted to work with and never put anything out by, and I mentioned Christian Nesmith, someone that I can definitely see some kind of collaboration happening in the future, but nothing official. He's actually someone you should pay attention, because he and his wife have recorded a full-length progressive rock album, and it's gonna really blow you away.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
I don't know what his plans are at this point. He's still kind of trying to figure out what to do with it, because that's not his usual scene. But it's what I've heard of it is really, really amazing, and so I'll be promoting that when I can. And yeah, I don't know. There's like I said, Don and I have been working together on stuff. I got Robert Schindler's played some stuff, and I'm sure there'll be just other collaborations, perhaps more with definitely more with Don. And we'll just kind of see, like I said with Roy Harper and Pink Floyd, it's like sort of whatever seems to fit the vibe of whatever a particular song needs. I'll be reaching out and collaborating with other people, because I definitely want whatever I do in the future to be more collaborative and not quite so I find that I really enjoy putting together things on my own, and I like the cohesive vision kind of thing. But as soon as I get someone else involved and really kind of let them do their thing, it just takes on a different dimension, and I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Robert's ready to go. So
yeah, he's ready to go.
yeah, I'm anxious for you to hear the love song, the Elton John track that we did. It's really cool. Does a really nice synth solo on it.
Well,
oh, lots of people here.
Oh, I know. We got, at one time we got about 9. I actually know double digits. I saw.
Wow.
I was glancing over, so that's really good. Well, again, like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. I think that's primarily why I picked Sunday, because Sunday seems to be the least busy day of anybody's schedule. And I didn't want to clash with other similar programs to this, that a friend of ours, Sean, that does on Saturday nights. So I didn't want to clash with his.
Sean Tonar?
Yeah, I didn't want to clash with his. And I think there was things going on, other nights of the week, people doing their music. And so I figured Sunday, no one's doing anything. That's the perfect day.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I was doing when I was doing the online, just the Facebook Live stuff. I'd try to do Sunday afternoons, and actually Christian and Cersei were doing Sunday afternoon things too. So I'd try to stagger it. I would try to do it before them, and then I'd point people to say, hey, go check their stuff out.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And hopefully when you
Thank you.
have something coming out, we could come back, maybe do another round, and talk about stuff, and maybe even include some of maybe other people, that
Yeah, sure.
that you're involved with.
Yeah, that would be fun.
All right. Well, also too, thank you guys, people out there that have been watching and talking with us, even though I'm not really paying 100% attention to them, which I'm learning how to do that.
Multitasking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that's hard. I was talking about all the technological challenges behind doing the Facebook Live events and stuff like that is, did you say you've got your iPad like with the comments, and then you've got your computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I had that going on too. In fact, I had 3 computers going on. I had the iPad for the comments, and I had one computer for getting all the video stuff together, and then I had a whole other computer a laptop dedicated to just the sound. So,
Right.
but yeah, and then
Right.
I would have lyrics as well.
Oh, there you go. You got the lyric screen.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it, Mark.
Well, thank you. It's been a great conversation, and we'll definitely have to do it again.
Okay. Well, you have a good rest of your day.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye.
See ya.